Get ready for high-octane action and heart-racing drama as a quiet truck driver confronts a ruthless biker gang, revealing skills no one ever suspected. In this story, you'll witness jaw-dropping moments of heroism, from tense standoffs under desert skies to a final showdown that tests the limits of courage and loyalty. It's a thrilling ride packed with unexpected twists and powerful alliances, where an entire community unites to defend its land and its people. You won't want to miss a single page of this epic battle between good and evil. Be sure to listen all the way through to find out how this dangerous conflict is finally resolved. And if you love engaging stories packed with action and real human emotion, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that follow button so you never miss out on more exciting tales like this one. The late afternoon sun hung low over a dusty stretch of highway that cut through an expanse of rolling desert hills. In a small, unassuming town just off the main road, life seemed to move at a leisurely pace. A single gas station with faded signage served as the area's lifeline, and across the street stood Rosie's Diner, its neon lights flickering in a half-hearted welcome. Local folks would often gather at Rosie's after a day's work, swapping stories about the weather, local sports, and the occasional mention of travelers passing through. Sam Carson, a middle-aged truck driver, had just pulled his rig into the diner's gravel parking lot. He was the type of man you could walk past a dozen times and never truly notice. Slightly stooped shoulders, gray stubble on his chin, and a quiet demeanor. He was the very definition of ordinary. Yet if one observed him closely, there were subtle signs that this man was more than he appeared. The way he scanned the room upon entering, the careful deliberation behind his every move, the precision in how he parked his truck, these details hinted at a past he rarely spoke about. Settling onto a bar stool, Sam offered the waitress a polite nod. "Hey, Rosie, can I get the usual?" he asked in a gentle tone. Rosie, a woman in her 50s with a warm smile, nodded back. "Sure thing, hun. One slice of apple pie and a cup of black coffee, coming right up." She moved to fill his order, but her kind eyes lingered on him. She always sensed there was a quiet intensity beneath his casual exterior. The diner was mostly empty at this hour. A couple of young men hunched over plates of fries in a corner booth, their conversation low and unhurried. Next to Sam sat an older gentleman reading a local newspaper. Occasionally, the old man would sigh, rustling the pages with hints of disapproval. Sam glanced at the headline and spotted something about rising tensions among local ranchers and a rumored increase in outlaw biker activity in the region. Rosie placed the coffee and pie in front of Sam. "You hear about those biker gangs harassing folks a few miles out?" she asked, tone laced with concern. Sam shrugged, feigning mild interest. "A rumor here, a story there. Not sure how serious it is. But trouble always seems to find its way around." Outside, dusk began to settle, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. A warm breeze carried with it the scent of sagebrush and dust, an unmistakable hallmark of the desert. Everything about this tiny town radiated a fragile calm, and Sam couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. Peaceful places like this often attracted the wrong kind of attention, especially from those who underestimated the townsfolk. As Sam sipped his coffee, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. Long ago, he had been trained to handle all manner of threats, both near and far, but these days he preferred the solitude of the open road, the hum of his truck, and the simple pleasures of a diner meal. If trouble was brewing, he'd do his best to steer clear. Yet an inner voice reminded him that, sooner or later, life had a funny way of testing one's mettle. Twilight gave way to the first hints of night, and the temperature began to drop. Sam finished his pie in silence, tipping Rosie with a gentle smile before leaving the diner. He stepped into the parking lot, where his 18-wheeler stood sentinel under a single flickering lamppost. The big rig was more than just a vehicle to him. It was his livelihood, his home on the road, and in some ways, his sanctuary. The side of the trailer bore the faded logo of a logistics company he subcontracted for, but Sam often joked that he should get his name painted beneath it, given how much time he spent behind the wheel. He climbed into the cab and began his pre-drive ritual, checking gauges, scanning side mirrors, and ensuring the cargo was secure. A battered baseball cap lay on the passenger seat, alongside a neatly folded topographic map, another throwback to an era of discipline and precision. His hands, calloused from years of manual labor, moved almost automatically, toggling switches and verifying everything was in order. Though Sam had left active duty many years ago, traces of that life still lingered in his habits. He'd served in the Navy SEALs, a fact he seldom mentioned, partly out of humility, partly out of a desire to shield himself from intrusive questions. He'd learned all too well that the experiences he carried, both the harrowing operations and the quieter moments of camaraderie, were best held close to the vest in civilian life. People either glorified or misunderstood such stories, and Sam wanted neither. As he prepared to pull onto the highway, his mind wandered back to what Rosie had said. Biker gangs were on the move, causing headaches for local ranchers and travelers alike. There was mention of extortion, threats, and property damage. To someone with Sam's background, it all sounded like the beginning of a bigger, more orchestrated plan. Perhaps the gang wanted to establish a foothold here, or maybe they were just looking for easy pickings. Either way, Sam hoped the trouble wouldn't cross his path. But as he drove into the growing darkness, headlights glared in his rearview mirror. The sound of revving engines cut through the still night air, deep, throaty roars that could belong only to motorcycles. Sam felt a twinge of caution. Sure enough, his side mirror revealed a pair of bikes pulling up behind his truck. Their riders wore leather vests with menacing patches, though it was hard to make out the insignias in the dark. Sam kept driving, hoping they would pass, but the bikers held formation behind him for several miles. Occasionally, they swerved into the opposing lane, then back again, as if testing his reaction. The hum of tension filled the air. Sam had no interest in confrontation. He just wanted to get to his next stop, deliver his goods, and find a place to rest. Yet a quiet voice inside reminded him that sometimes the best defense was preparedness. He eased off the accelerator slightly, maintaining a steady pace. The bikers continued to follow, their headlights bobbing in and out of his mirrors. Sam's pulse remained steady. He'd faced far worse in his past, but there was no denying that he had a strange feeling tonight. The road was empty, the possibilities were endless, and the distant silhouette of trouble seemed ready to pounce. Before long, the road narrowed, cutting through an expanse of desert scrub with hardly any lights for miles. Sam noticed a soft glow on the horizon, a truck stop that might offer him temporary sanctuary. He turned on his signal and guided the rig toward the off-ramp. To his dismay, the bikers followed. The truck stop was more of a dusty pull-off with a couple of gas pumps and a rundown convenience store. A single overhead light flickered, casting long shadows across the concrete. Sam parked his rig on the far side of the lot, away from the pumps. He hoped the bikers would ignore him and go about their business. No such luck. They pulled up alongside him, engines rumbling ominously before cutting out. Two men dismounted. One was tall and lanky, sporting a thick beard and a toothpick dangling from his lips. The other was shorter, with a shaved head and tattoos snaking up his neck. Their matching leather vests bore the emblem of a snarling wolf skull, flanked by the words "Iron Howlers." Neither looked friendly. Sam climbed down from his cab, feigning a relaxed posture. He gave the men a nod, but his gaze flicked across their hands and waistlines, checking for weapons. A quiet tension buzzed in the air, like static before a storm. The tall biker was the first to speak. "Evening, old-timer," he drawled. "Nice rig you got there. Must be hauling something valuable to be out here all alone." Sam forced a polite smile. "Hauling a few pallets of dry goods. Nothing special," he replied evenly. He made no sudden movements, but kept his senses alert. The second biker let out a low chuckle. "Yeah, we'll see about that. You know, we Iron Howlers run this stretch of road. Could be real bad for your health if you don't show the proper respect." Sam sighed inwardly. He understood their game, intimidation, shaking down travelers for quick cash. They likely thought he was an easy mark. And perhaps to the naked eye he was, a tired truck driver in his late 40s, worn out from life on the road. "I'm just passing through," Sam said. "Got deadlines to meet, so I won't be in your way. I'll be out of here as soon as I gas up and get some coffee." "You can be out of here if we let you," the tall biker sneered, circling around Sam. "How about you pay us a toll for safe passage? $50 each for me and my friend here." It was a pittance, really, but Sam had dealt with bullies before. Giving in might encourage them to escalate next time, perhaps demand more or worse. Still, he had no desire for a brawl. He carefully considered his response. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Sam's instincts, honed from years of training, told him to de-escalate if possible. But he also sensed that no matter how he responded, these men were itching for a fight. In the silent desert night, the echo of his measured voice carried weight. "I'm sorry, fellas, but I'm not paying," Sam said softly, glancing at the flickering overhead light. "Why don't we all just move on?" A palpable shift occurred in the bikers' posture. Their sneers hardened into grim lines. The tall man tossed his toothpick to the ground, anger flashing in his eyes. "You gotta be kidding me," he snarled. "You think you're too good for us? That's not how it works out here." "Relax," Sam replied, keeping his voice steady but low. He didn't want to start a confrontation, yet he refused to cower. "I'm just not looking to pay for something that isn't yours to sell." The shorter biker let out a harsh laugh. "Looks like we got ourselves a real hero. Thinks he can roll through Iron Howler's territory without contributing." He took a menacing step closer to Sam. "Might have to teach you some manners." Sam maintained eye contact while every muscle in his body tensed, ready to act if necessary. "I don't want trouble," he repeated. "Just let me gas up and go. We can pretend this never happened." But trouble had already arrived. Without warning, the tall biker lunged forward, aiming a punch at Sam's ribs. Sam sidestepped, his reflexes surprisingly quick. The man's momentum carried him past Sam, who countered with a firm push, sending the biker stumbling. The shorter man wasted no time, swinging a heavy fist towards Sam's jaw. Sam ducked, the blow whistling overhead, then pivoted to deliver a swift elbow into the biker's midsection. The man grunted, doubling over in pain. For an instant, Sam considered finishing the fight more decisively. His training told him to strike hard and fast, but he hesitated, not wanting to escalate beyond what was necessary. The tall biker recovered, eyes burning. He brandished a knife, the blade catching the flicker of the overhead light. "You're dead," he shouted, lunging again. This time, Sam's senses went into overdrive. He sidestepped, locked the biker's arm, and twisted. The knife clattered to the ground. A swift kick sent the weapon skidding under a nearby car. "Enough!" Sam snapped, gripping the tall biker's arm. The man grimaced in pain. His shorter companion glowered, still catching his breath. This was a critical moment. Sam knew that if he didn't end it now, the violence would only worsen. Before Sam could decide his next move, headlights bathed the scene in stark brightness. A third motorcycle roared into the lot, followed by a fourth and fifth. More Iron Howlers. Sam recognized them by their matching vests and the same snarling wolf skull patch. They pulled up in a line, revving their engines like a war cry. The battered convenience store door opened and a terrified clerk peeked out, then quickly ducked back inside. Outnumbered and pinned down, Sam released the tall biker's arm, pushing him away. "All right, let's calm down," he said, eyeing the newcomers. His mind raced. Taking on two bikers was one thing, but now there were at least five, possibly more if they had friends nearby. Any wrong move could be catastrophic. The tall biker, now flanked by reinforcements, rubbed his bruised wrist. "You're going to regret that, old man. You have no idea who you're messing with." Sam remained silent, mind whirling with options. Fight or flee? He doubted he could escape in his rig, too large, too slow to maneuver if they blocked him. Yet fighting off an entire biker gang seemed suicidal. Still, a distant memory flickered in his mind. He had walked into tougher ambushes in foreign lands. He'd survived, but that was with a well-trained team backing him. Now he was alone in a dusty truck stop, facing an unknown number of adversaries. Trouble had found him, and it wasn't letting go. The newcomers killed their engines, the echo of their arrival fading into the still desert air. The leader, a burly figure with a long braided beard and tattoos covering his arms, stepped forward. Metal studs gleamed on his vest, and a patch on his chest read Wolf, likely his road name. He surveyed Sam with a predatory glint in his eye. "So, this is the guy who thinks he can take on the Iron Howlers?" Wolf asked, his tone laced with contempt. The two bikers Sam had just fought hung back, nursing bruises and glaring daggers. Sam stood firm, though every instinct told him this was a precarious situation. He raised both hands in a show of peace, hoping to defuse the standoff. "Look, I'm just passing through. Your friends started something, and I defended myself. I'm not looking for more trouble. Wolf took a step closer, towering over Sam. Oh, but you found it, he growled. We're the law out here. You want to come through Iron Howler's territory, you pay the toll. It's that simple. But you decided to play tough guy. Now we gotta send a message. Can't have folks thinking they can walk all over us. Sam's mind raced. A direct fight was ill-advised. They had the numbers and likely weapons. Still, he had one advantage, the element of surprise from his skill set. They saw just a truck driver, maybe a bit scrappier than average. They had no clue about his past. For a moment, Sam considered giving them whatever money he had in his wallet, just to avoid a violent confrontation. But a lifetime of principle warred within him. Extortion, bullying, he had no tolerance for it. And he suspected even if he paid, they'd find another excuse to escalate. People like this didn't respect weakness. The tall biker spat on the ground. He hurt me real good, boss. We ought to make him pay for that. Wolf nodded, eyes narrowing. Yeah, he looks like he needs a reminder. He gestured at a couple of his men. Grab him. Two bikers advanced, but Sam retreated a step, scanning for escape routes. The convenience store, minimal cover, but there might be a side exit. His truck, too big to maneuver quickly, but it was built like a tank. Then again, the bikes could easily chase him down on the open road. The tension ratcheted up with every second. Before the bikers could lay hands on him, Sam spoke calmly. You'd be making a mistake, he warned. I don't want to hurt any of you, but I will defend myself if I have to. His words triggered laughter from the gang. Wolf tilted his head, a mocking grin spreading across his face. Defend yourself? You're outnumbered 5-1. Maybe you haven't noticed. I've noticed, Sam replied softly, weighing his options. His stance shifted, feet shoulder-width apart, balanced, an echo of the countless hours he'd spent training on martial arts mats and in covert operations. He wouldn't go down easy. The first biker lunged, and Sam spun, deflecting the outstretched arm. Another closed in from behind, but Sam dropped low, sweeping the man's legs from under him. The clash erupted under the harsh fluorescent lights, a blur of fists and grunts echoing across the otherwise silent desert. Sam moved swiftly, landing blows with surgical precision. For a brief moment, it seemed as if he might hold them off. Yet the group was large, and experience taught Sam that numbers eventually take their toll. He felt a fist connect with his shoulder, another glancing blow across his ribs. The bikers were relentless, fueled by anger and the desire to prove their dominance. In the swirl of chaos, Sam's mind flashed back to a time in a far-off land, another ambush, another desperate fight. Focus, he told himself. There was no room for panic here. Sam pivoted and landed a solid punch on the jaw of the shorter biker who had taunted him earlier. The man stumbled backward, cursing. Another attacker came at Sam from the side with a chain in his hand, swinging it in a vicious arc. Sam backpedaled, narrowly avoiding a blow that could have split his skull. The world around him blurred in adrenaline-fueled tunnel vision, each threat flickering into sharp focus one at a time. He ducked beneath the chain and drove his shoulder into the biker's midsection, sending him sprawling. But the respite was momentary. Wolf and the tall biker converged, fists pounding relentlessly. Sam blocked what he could, but a few hits landed. Pain flared in his side, a reminder that he was no longer a young SEAL fresh out of training. Still, the discipline instilled in him during his Navy years rose to the surface, guiding his movements. Even outnumbered, he fought with efficiency, trying to minimize injuries and avoid lethal damage. He didn't want blood on his hands unless absolutely necessary. Yet, the Iron Howlers were out for vengeance, and they had no such moral constraints. A sharp blow to the back of his head sent Sam reeling. He fell to one knee, vision flashing with sparks. He tasted grit and blood in his mouth. Another blow caught him in the shoulder, nearly toppling him. Gasping, Sam braced himself for the next wave of attacks. Perhaps this was it, he thought. Perhaps fate had finally caught up with him. Suddenly, the roar of an approaching vehicle cut through the din. Headlights illuminated the scene as a pickup truck skidded to a halt nearby. A stocky, middle-aged man jumped out, brandishing a shotgun. Back off, he shouted, chambering around. The bikers froze, momentarily taken aback. Who the hell are you? Wolf snarled, eyeing the newcomer warily. Friend of Rosie's, the man declared, leveling the shotgun at the group. She said a truck driver might need some help. Figured I'd swing by and check on things. His voice held a steady confidence that came from a lifetime of ranch work, or perhaps more. Taking advantage of the distraction, Sam staggered to his feet. His body ached, but he remained alert. Thanks, he managed, nodding at the man. You okay? The newcomer asked, eyes still fixed on the bikers. Sam wiped blood from his split lip. I'll manage. Wolf glared at the man with the shotgun, clearly weighing his options. The bikers had numbers, but a shotgun at close range was a wild card they might not want to gamble against. Finally, Wolf sneered and motioned for his men to stand down. You got lucky this time, he hissed, pointing at Sam. But don't think we're done. The iron howlers don't forget. Then, in a screech of tires and revving engines, the bikers climbed onto their motorcycles. One by one, they roared off into the night, headlights disappearing over the horizon like angry fireflies. As the dust settled, Sam exhaled heavily, leaning against his truck for support. The man with the shotgun walked over, extending a calloused hand. Name's Hank, he said, his tone calm and reassuring. Sam, replied the battered truck driver, clasping Hank's hand. I owe you one. Hank gave a curt nod. Let's get you patched up. Rosie told me you might be in trouble, and it sure looks like she was right. Those bikers have been stirring up chaos around here for weeks. Sam nodded, grateful but uneasy. The iron howlers weren't finished. He knew what revenge looked like. He'd seen it too many times. The question now was how far they'd push, and whether Sam would be forced to reveal just how capable he truly was. Inside the convenience store, the frightened clerk frantically offered a first aid kit. Hank and Sam made their way to a small seating area by the window, where Hank began cleaning Sam's cuts and bruises. The neon sign buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the battered truck driver's face. You look like you've been through the ringer, Hank said, dabbing antiseptic on a nasty gash above Sam's eyebrow. Sam winced but managed a faint smirk. Had worse, he replied. A sense of camaraderie flickered between the two men. Hank had clearly dealt with rough situations before. His calm demeanor and direct approach suggested he was no stranger to conflict. Meanwhile, Sam appreciated having an ally, if only a temporary one. You from around here? Sam asked, breaking the silence as Hank applied a sterile bandage. Own a ranch about 15 miles north, Hank replied. Rosie's my cousin. She said you seemed like a decent fella, and after those rumors of bikers hassling travelers, I figured you might need a hand. Guess I was right. Sam bowed his head slightly in thanks. You saved my hide back there. Might have been a different story if you hadn't shown up. Hank shrugged. Ain't no thing. Just tired of these iron howlers running roughshod over the good people in this area. They've been extorting local ranchers, threatening farmers, even sabotaging equipment. Now they're starting to mess with truckers and travelers. We don't deserve this. The grim reality settled over them like a shroud. Sam recalled Rosie mentioning the biker trouble earlier, but he hadn't realized the full extent. What do they want? Territory, Hank answered with a dark scowl. The cops are stretched. Thin, iron howlers figure they can do whatever they please. Some folks are too scared to stand up to them. Others have tried and gotten hurt. A few ranchers banded together to push back, but these bikers are well-armed and organized. Sam leaned back, staring at the fluorescent lights overhead. Memories of missions in hostile territories tugged at the corners of his mind. He had once been part of an elite unit that specialized in dealing with organized threats under the toughest conditions. Yet he'd sworn to leave that life behind, to focus on a quieter existence on the road. This was not his battle, or was it? How'd they get so strong, he asked softly. Hank shrugged again. Hard to say. Some people think they're backed by bigger criminals, syndicates. Others say they're just a bunch of thugs who got lucky. Either way, they're a menace. I'm just about fed up, and I'm not the only one. A weight settled on Sam's chest. He'd fought for his country, for justice, for the safety of innocence. The oath he once took still echoed in his soul, yet part of him wanted to remain aloof, to drive away and not look back. This might get ugly, Sam warned, testing the mobility of his bruised shoulder. They said they're not done with me. Hank nodded grimly. They won't stop until someone stands up to them. And from what I saw, you are more than just some random truck driver. Sam sighed, uncertain if he should reveal his past. I know a thing or two about defending myself. Hank gave him a knowing look, then glanced out the window where Sam's truck was parked under the flickering light. I reckon that's an understatement. Listen, Sam, we could use someone like you around here. Folks need protection, and I've got some friends who'd be willing to help. Sam hesitated, torn between the desire to keep his head down and the call of duty he had once known so well. The iron howlers were a growing threat. Ignoring them wouldn't make it go away. And in the back of his mind, Sam sensed that fate had placed him here for a reason. Hank's ranch, located about 15 miles north of the truck stop, was nestled between low-rolling hills. A large wooden gate emblazoned with a simple H brand marked the entrance. The morning sun bathed the property in a warm glow, revealing a sprawling cluster of barns, stables, and fenced pastures where a few horses grazed. It looked peaceful, idyllic even, yet Sam couldn't shake the sense of impending turmoil. He followed Hank's pickup truck down the dirt driveway, dust kicking up behind his rig. Hank had insisted Sam stay at the ranch for a spell, at least until the bruises healed. Sam, wary of returning to the open road with a gang out for revenge, agreed with mild reluctance. Inside the ranch house, the smell of freshly brewed coffee and bacon greeted them. Hank's wife, Karen, stood in the kitchen doorway, smiling warmly. "Hank called and told me you'd be coming," she said, extending a hand to Sam. "Any friend of his is welcome here." Sam returned her smile, feeling a twinge of awkwardness. "Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it." Over a hearty breakfast, Hank filled Karen in on the previous night's events. How Sam fought off multiple bikers single-handedly until Hank arrived. Sam downplayed his involvement, but Karen's eyes brimmed with concern. "These outlaws are getting bolder every day. Just last month, they slashed a neighbor's tires and set fire to one of our hay barns." Hank nodded gravely. "We're running out of options. Local law enforcement can't do much. The sheriff is good people, but understaffed. The bikers have ways of disappearing into the hills, then reappearing when we least expect it." As Sam listened, he felt old instincts stirring. Gathering intelligence, strategizing, identifying weak points. These were skills he'd honed over many years. But the last thing he wanted was to drag the ranchers into a vigilante war. "We need to think carefully about this," he said quietly. Hank leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I know you're not looking to pick a fight, Sam, but folks around here could really use your help. You've seen how these bikers operate. They respond only to force, or at least to someone who stands up to them." Karen placed a hand on Hank's shoulder. "We can't do it alone," she admitted. "Maybe you could teach some of us how to defend ourselves, or at least how to avoid becoming easy targets." Sam looked from Karen to Hank, taking in their earnest expressions. He was caught in a moral crossroad. He had the knowledge and capability to help these people, but intervening meant reopening a chapter of his life he had sealed away. It also meant risking an escalation that could put innocent lives in danger. Still, as he recalled the fear in the convenience store clerk's eyes, Sam felt a stirring sense of responsibility. "All right," he said, finally nodding. "I can at least show you some things: how to fortify the ranch, set up early warning systems, and defend yourselves if necessary." Relief washed over Hank's face. "That's all we're asking," he said. "No one wants a bloodbath. We just want to protect our families." Sam agreed silently, finishing his coffee. "Let's get started," he said, pushing back from the table. They spent the rest of the morning walking the perimeter of the ranch, identifying vulnerable points. Sam offered suggestions: installing motion sensor lights, reinforcing the barn doors, setting up a few hidden cameras. Hank took notes, occasionally radioing a nearby neighbor who had also experienced biker trouble. Word spread quickly. By late afternoon, a handful of local ranchers gathered at Hank's property, each hoping to glean advice from this unassuming truck driver who seemed to know so much about security. As the sun edged toward the horizon, Sam felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in years. His old life was creeping back in, but in a way he could justify, protecting good people from those who would do them harm. Yet, he knew the iron howlers wouldn't stand idly by. If they discovered Sam's involvement, they'd likely unleash their full fury, and that realization weighed heavily on his mind. That evening, Sam found himself standing on Hank's front porch, gazing out over the moonlit ranch. Soft guitar music drifted from inside the house, where a couple of neighbors had gathered, sharing a quiet meal with the family. Sam, however, preferred the solitude of the open air, his thoughts still swirling. He recalled the fierce determination in the rancher's eyes earlier that day. Men and women who spent their lives tending cattle, mending fences, and caring for the land, suddenly forced to worry about armed thugs terrorizing their homes. A simmering anger rose within Sam, fueled by memories of fighting overseas to protect innocent lives. Now trouble was brewing on home soil, and it seemed he couldn't just walk away. The sound of gravel underfoot alerted him to someone's approach. Karen stepped out onto the porch carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "Thought you could use a little pick-me-up," she said softly, handing one to Sam. He thanked her and took a tentative sip. The warmth was comforting against the cool night air. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the moonlight dance on the distant hills. Eventually, Karen spoke up. "I appreciate what you're doing, Sam, teaching us, giving us a fighting chance, but I can't help wondering what it might cost you." Sam sighed. "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried. These bikers are organized. They could retaliate in ways that endanger everyone. I don't want to see innocents caught in the crossfire." Karen nodded, her expression solemn. "Hank told me you have a pace, said you're the kind of man who doesn't scare easily, but none of us want to burden you with our problems." "It's not a burden," Sam replied, setting his mug on the railing. "Look, I'm no stranger to conflict. I've seen what men do when they think they can act with impunity. If I can help stop that, well, that's worth doing." Karen placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Thank you," she said. "Just be careful. We need you." Their conversation was interrupted by the distant roar of motorcycle engines. Sam's gaze snapped to the long dirt driveway, but he saw nothing yet, only the faint glow of headlights on the horizon. Instantly, his pulse quickened. Hank emerged from inside the house, a concerned look on his face. "You hear that?" he asked, stepping onto the porch. Sam nodded. "We've got company." Within minutes, 3 motorcycles appeared at the top of the driveway, headlights scanning the ranch. It was a smaller group than before, but the sense of menace was unmistakable. The riders slowed as if surveying the property, then stopped just short of the main gate. "Stay back," Sam advised Karen, moving down the porch steps toward Hank. The 2 men walked side by side, approaching the gate cautiously. One of the bikers revved his engine. Another pointed a flashlight at the house, the beam dancing across the windows. Finally, the center rider, a muscular figure wearing a helmet that obscured most of his face, spoke in a booming voice. "We know you're harboring that trucker who messed with our brothers. Hand him over." Hank bristled, stepping forward. "This is private property. You got no right to be here." The biker laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "We got every right we decide to take. Don't play hero, cowboy." Sam felt a flash of anger. He stepped into the glow of the headlights, revealing himself. "I'm right here," he called, voice calm yet firm. "Your friends jumped me at the truck stop, and I defended myself. That's all there is to it." "You hurt them! We don't let that slide," the rider growled. "Come with us now, or we burn this place to the ground." A hush fell over the ranch as the confrontation hit a dangerous threshold. Sam could almost taste the tension in the air. Karen watched from the porch, fear etched on her face. In the barn, a couple of neighbors peered through a crack in the door, gripping rifles nervously. Hank glanced at Sam. "We're not letting them take you," he said under his breath. Sam nodded, the lines of loyalty drawn in the sand. This was no longer just about him. It was about an entire community standing against bullies. And Sam was ready to stand his ground. Sam cleared his throat, taking a measured step closer to the gate. The biker's flashlight caught the glint of determination in his eyes. "Threatening to burn down a ranch full of innocent people," Sam said, voice steady. "You've already lost if that's your tactic." A sneer twisted the biker's lips. "Don't lecture me. You'll come with us, or we'll make sure everyone here remembers the Iron Howler's wrath." Hank rested a reassuring hand on Sam's shoulder. "You're not taking him," he declared, looking the bikers in the eye. Behind Hank, ranchers gathered, some armed with shotguns, others with hunting rifles. They formed a ragged line, hearts pounding, but resolve firm. There was something admirable about their stance. They refused to be cowed by violence. The lead biker's helmet tilted as he took in the sight of armed ranchers. There was a pause, as if he was recalculating odds. But rather than retreat, he barked a harsh laugh. "You folks really want to die over this stranger? Fine, we'll oblige you." At his signal, one of the other bikers reached into a saddlebag, pulling out what looked like a Molotov cocktail, a glass bottle filled with fuel, rags sticking out of the top. He flicked a lighter, flames dancing dangerously close to the rag. "Last warning," the lead biker shouted. Time seemed to slow. Sam knew that if the biker threw that bottle, it could ignite the dry brush and wooden buildings in seconds. The entire ranch could go up in flames. Adrenaline surged through him, all his training coalescing into a singular moment of decision. He lunged forward, vaulting over the gate with surprising agility. The bikers, momentarily taken aback, scrambled to respond. Sam closed the distance to the man with the Molotov, knocking the bottle from his hand just as he prepared to hurl it. The glass shattered on the ground, flames bursting in a small circle on the dirt, but thankfully far from any structures. Chaos erupted. The lead biker and his remaining companion revved their engines, kicking up clouds of dust. Shots rang out, warning shots from the ranchers, who hesitated to fire directly at a human target unless absolutely necessary. Sam wrestled the second biker to the ground, struggling to pin him without getting burned by the scattered flames licking at the edges of the broken bottle. The lead biker seized the moment. He sped forward, trying to hit Sam with the motorcycle. Sam rolled away at the last second, narrowly avoiding the front wheel. The biker circled back, aiming for another pass. Sam's heart thundered in his chest. He caught a glimpse of Hank, shotgun raised. A thunderous boom tore through the night. The lead biker's front tire exploded, the bike veering wildly and crashing into a ditch. The rider flew off, landing with a painful thud. Hank had fired at the tire, a non-lethal shot aimed to stop the assault. The final biker, witnessing his leader's downfall, screeched away, retreating down the driveway in a panic. Silence descended, broken only by the crackle of the small fire and the groans of the fallen riders. Sam pushed himself upright, smoke swirling around him. The ranchers, wide-eyed and shaking, lowered their weapons. They'd managed to repel the iron howlers this time, but at what cost? The night air reeked of gasoline and fear. Hank rushed over, checking on Sam. "You okay?" Sam nodded breathlessly. "Yeah, just singed a bit." A couple of ranchers hurried to smother the flames with blankets and dirt. The lead biker lay near the ditch, nursing a broken arm, his helmet askew. Sam stood over him, eyes hard. "You and your gang need to understand something," he said coldly. "This is over." But the biker only spat in the dirt, his eyes flickering with hatred. "You're dead," he hissed, "and so is this whole town. Iron howlers won't stand for this humiliation." With a grim expression, Sam stepped back. The threat felt all too real. If the iron howlers were truly as powerful as the rumors suggested, this was just the beginning of a larger war. Morning found the ranch in a subdued yet determined mood. The previous night's attack had left everyone on edge, but also galvanized a sense of unity. A few ranchers had stayed overnight to help with cleanup and offer protection, taking turns patrolling the perimeter. The local sheriff finally arrived, stepping out of his dusty cruiser with a weary sigh. Sheriff Colton was a lean man with worry lines etched into his brow. "Heard there was trouble," he said, surveying the damage, the scorched patch of ground, the downed biker's motorcycle still partially lodged in the ditch. Hank explained the events in detail, mentioning how Sam had fought off multiple bikers. The sheriff looked Sam up and down, noting his battered face and the steely glint in his eyes. "I'd arrest them," Colton said, gesturing to the injured bikers, "but their friends will come looking for payback. We don't have the manpower to mount a full-scale defense." Sam glanced around at the anxious faces of the ranchers, the tension palpable. "We can't just let them walk," he said quietly. "They tried to burn this place down." Colton pushed his hat back, revealing more lines of exhaustion. "We'll take them in for assault and attempted arson, but bail might get them out soon enough. If that happens, they'll be back. And if the iron howlers decide to escalate, we're in over our heads." Hank clenched his fists. "So what do we do? Just wait around until they torch another barn or run someone off the road?" Sam leaned against a fence post, deep in thought. His mind cycled through countless scenarios, recalling the covert methods he once used to neutralize threats. Here, though, he was constrained by the law, by the safety of civilians, and by a desire to avoid bloodshed. "Prevention," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. "We need to show them that this town isn't an easy target. We need a united front. Ranchers, townsfolk, law enforcement, everyone. Secure the roads in and out, coordinate communications, and be ready. The sheriff raised an eyebrow. Sounds like you're talking about a militia, son. Sam shook his head. Not exactly. More like a neighborhood watch on steroids. Everyone keeps an eye out, reports suspicious activity, and we respond quickly, together. That might deter these bikers from ramping up their attacks. A few ranchers nodded in agreement. One older man spoke up, voice trembling slightly. We can't live in fear anymore. I've got grandchildren that come here for the summer. I won't have them terrorized. Sheriff Colton sighed again, realizing this was perhaps the best option under the circumstances. All right, I'll do what I can. Officially, I can't endorse vigilante acts, but I can coordinate with you folks for extra patrols, sharing intel. If we stand as one, maybe the Iron Howlers will think twice. The injured bikers were loaded into an ambulance under police watch. Their wrathful stares lingered on Sam, Hank, and the ranchers, promising retribution. Sam felt a pang of unease. He knew bikers like these didn't bluff. They would come back, and likely with greater force. Quietly, Sam approached the sheriff. You have any idea how big this gang is? Colton pursed his lips. Word is there's at least a couple dozen. They're spread across a few territories. The ones around here might only be a small chapter, but they're mean, and they're armed. Sam's jaw tightened. A couple dozen. Enough to overwhelm a group of ranchers if it came down to a direct firefight. Still, he couldn't walk away now, not after everything that had happened, not with the threat looming over innocent lives. He turned to Hank. We need a plan. Defensive positions, a chain of command, fallback points. And maybe I can call in a favor or two. Hank looked puzzled. Favor? Sam hesitated, memories of old comrades flickering in his mind. Some old friends from my Navy days. If they're around, maybe they can offer some advice, or even lend a hand. A glimmer of hope lit Hank's features. You think they'd come? Sam shrugged, lips pressed into a thin line. We serve together. If I call, they'll come. That's how it works. The sun rose higher, bathing the ranch in its bright light, yet the threat of darkness loomed over them, an inescapable dread. Sam steeled himself. What began as a routine trucking job had become a fight for an entire community. And if the Iron Howlers wanted a war, Sam intended to show them exactly how wrong they were to pick this town as their battlefield. Over the next several days, the ranchers and townsfolk rallied together in a concerted effort to fortify their homes and businesses. Men and women who once only concerned themselves with tending cattle, selling feed, or running diners found themselves learning basic security drills. Sam's guidance proved invaluable. He showed them how to set up improvised barricades, how to communicate using shortwave radios if cell service went down, and how to keep lookout shifts without burning out. Even Rosie from the diner helped organize a rotating schedule for delivering meals to those pulling all-night watches. Word spread of the Vigilance Project, and more volunteers came forward, eager to stand against the Iron Howlers. A few of Sam's old Navy SEAL buddies surprised him by actually showing up. Drew, a lean, wiry ex-SEAL with piercing green eyes, arrived in a battered SUV one evening. Next came Marcus, a broad-shouldered man with a quiet demeanor. Their presence brought an unmistakable sense of reassurance to the townsfolk. These weren't local heroes, they were trained professionals with a lifetime of experience in dealing with hostile threats. The sheriff, initially skeptical about a semi-militarized approach, found himself relying on Sam and his friends to coordinate intelligence. Together, they mapped out potential choke points on the highways, places where the Iron Howlers might try to slip in unnoticed. They also set up vantage points in the hills, manned by volunteers equipped with binoculars and radios. At the ranch, extra fencing and floodlights turned the once serene property into a modest fortress. Late one night, as Sam stood on the porch of Hank's ranch, scanning the horizon with night vision binoculars, Drew joined him. Quite a setup you got here, Drew remarked. Never thought we'd be playing war games on U.S. soil like this. Sam lowered the binoculars. Me neither, he admitted. But these people need our help. We can't let bullies run rampant, not here. Drew nodded. I'm with you, brother. You saved my life more than once overseas. If you need me to return the favor, say the word. A distant rumble of motorcycle engines drew their attention. Down on the road, two pairs of headlights cruised toward the main gate. Sam and Drew exchanged a look, then headed inside to alert Hank and the others. Within minutes, a small contingent of ranchers, along with Marcus and the sheriff, stood behind the reinforced gate, weapons at the ready but not raised. They wanted to avoid bloodshed if at all possible. As the motorcycles drew near, their riders slowed, clearly wary of the new fortifications. One of them called out, "We just want to talk." The voice echoed in the still night air. Sam stepped forward, flanked by Drew and Marcus. "Talk about what?" he asked, keeping a firm grip on his flashlight. The last talk had nearly ended in flames. The riders removed their helmets, revealing two men Sam hadn't seen before. They appeared tense but not immediately hostile. "We're from another chapter," one explained. "Heard rumors that your local crew is picking fights and causing trouble. That's not how we do business. We came to see what's going on." A flicker of surprise passed through Sam's eyes. Could it be that the Iron Howlers weren't as unified as they seemed? He glanced at the sheriff, who seemed equally taken aback. Hank, meanwhile, snorted softly. "Your so-called local crew tried to burn down my ranch." The second rider's gaze flicked to the ground. "That's not sanctioned. Our leaders don't allow that kind of heat on innocent folk. We're here to handle it internally. The guys who attacked you went rogue. They've been stepping on the toes of other chapters too, picking fights they can't back up." Sam studied their body language. They didn't seem to be lying. Their stance was more apologetic than confrontational. "So what do you want from us?" he asked. "We want you to stand down if we deal with them ourselves," the first rider said. "Those rogues are giving our entire organization a bad name. We'll take responsibility and punish them. You won't have to worry about them anymore." A hush fell over the gathering. Sheriff Colton looked uncertain, his hand resting on the butt of his holstered sidearm. Hank's jaw tightened. "Forgive me for not trusting you," he said coldly. "I get it," the second rider responded calmly. "But if you try to take them on yourselves, you're risking a war with bikers all over the county. Let us handle it quietly." Sam exchanged glances with Drew and Marcus. Was this an olive branch or a trick? The rational part of Sam's mind recognized that if the broader Iron Howlers disavowed the rogue element, it could mean an end to the violence. On the other hand, trusting outlaw bikers to police their own was a gamble. Eventually, Sam took a step forward. "If you can guarantee they won't come after this town again, we'll give you the chance to fix your own mess. But if they show up looking for trouble, we're ready." The riders nodded. "Fair enough. We'll spread the word. Those men are on the run, and our chapter wants them gone." And with that, the bikers revved their engines, disappearing into the night. The silence that followed was thick with uncertainty. The townsfolk slowly lowered their weapons, relief mingling with apprehension. Sheriff Colton finally spoke up. "Well, that's a twist," he said, holstering his gun. "Guess we'll see if they keep their word." Sam's shoulders sagged, exhaustion rolling over him like a tide. It wasn't the clean victory he'd envisioned. No final battle to prove the community's strength, no definitive assurance the threat was gone. But maybe avoiding further bloodshed was the best outcome they could hope for. In the days that followed, there were no more biker attacks. The rogue gang members who had tormented the region vanished, rumored to have fled under pressure from their own organization. Slowly, life returned to its normal rhythms. The ranchers resumed their daily tasks, the diner went back to serving pie without fear of violence, and Sam finally climbed back into his truck, ready to hit the road once more. Before he left, Hank and Karen embraced him like family. "You've done more than we could have asked," Karen said, eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you." Sam responded with a modest shrug. "I just did what needed doing. Thank yourselves. You stood up for your land and your neighbors." Drew and Marcus exchanged farewells as well, promising to keep in touch. They all knew that the bonds formed through hardship had a way of enduring. As Sam turned the key in the ignition, the big rig's engine roared to life. He glanced in the rearview mirror at the ranch gate disappearing behind him. The threat had passed for now, and the desert highway beckoned him onward. He wasn't sure where his next load would take him or what challenges lay ahead. But one thing was certain. The Iron Howlers had learned a painful lesson. Underestimating a seemingly ordinary truck driver, especially one with a Navy SEAL background, was a mistake they wouldn't soon forget. And so the town regained its peace, a testament to the power of unity and the strength hidden within ordinary people. Sam drove off into the sunrise, carrying with him the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had once again stood up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. And somewhere in the distant hills, a chastened group of bikers nursed their wounds, left with the bitter knowledge that they'd chosen the wrong man in the wrong community to push around. From my perspective, this story proves that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we can rise above fear when we stand together and use our hidden strengths for a greater good. Our seemingly ordinary truck driver embraced his past training to protect innocent lives, turning doubt into determination. His bravery, along with the courage of an entire community, shows how unity and trust can shatter any threat, even a well-armed biker gang. Looking back on each challenge, from hostile road encounters to daring midnight defenses, every risk they took brought them closer to victory and restored the peace they cherished. This journey illustrates the transformative power of compassion and cooperation, reminding us all that no one is ever truly alone when facing danger. Thank you for listening to the whole story. If you found it as inspiring as I did, please share your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going, and don't hesitate to suggest ideas for future stories.